Oh.
Okay. I'll call to order 4:31. You should have a packet that's got your agenda on the front, a couple of other documents that we'll go through. And then you should have got an email that has minutes from February already, but they are also included. Does anyone have any amendments to the agenda? First off? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve that agenda so we can move forward. By Jeff and a second by Leon. All those in favor, please audibly say aye. Any opposition? Perfect. And then the minutes from February, if you've had some time to look over those, any amendments to the minutes?
The thing was it just missing names and who seconded some things in there? I think I saw a few places where whoever was second was just left blank. Is that right? Yes. You can stick my name in there if you need to put somebody in there. There was about two of them I saw.
Where is that? Oh, I see.
There's that one, you can put my name in there. I think I saw one other. I don't remember what page it was, but
We can go back and look at the recording so that we've got it accurately.
Okay.
And make sure.
all right.
So the only amendment that we have to the meeting minutes, I'll say, are on the agenda approval. Who was seconded by? Are there any others? On the motion to extend the meeting,
Yeah, is that it?
I'll have to confirm who that was seconded by.
Yeah.
You've got two.
I thought I saw Raven.
Thank you for that. Any other amendments?
Raven. She's the projects.
What do you need for?
She's gonna introduce herself. Yeah.
If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the February minutes as amended with those two notes by Leon and a second by Dr. Lang. All those in favor, please audibly say aye. Any opposition? Beautiful. We will enter into our public comment period. Is there anyone from the public to join us?
Can I have Raven from Green Road introduce herself, if you don't mind?
Hey, everybody, how y'all doing?
Hi.
So, my name is Raven Johnson. I'm the director here over at, Green Road Community Center. The other lady that y'all might have seen walking in, that's Tandy Smith, that is our assistant director. We're both new, a little bit new to Green Road, not necessarily to the city. I've been with the athletics department about 8.5 years before I came here. So, enjoying my new role. We're just kind of transitioning into, full staff and, getting some programs together, getting some special events and stuff together. Working on some interior designing, to make this thing, look a little more new because it hasn't been updated in a while. We got some stuff happening next year on the outside of our, community center in the park, basically sprucing up, the tennis courts, gonna add some pickleball courts. Bridging the gap between us and the library, so putting up some public art and things like that, just making things more inviting for our community. So I'm excited to be here. Thank y'all for being here today. And y'all have any questions? Yeah, here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't think we had anybody from the public to speak, so we are going to move forward with an update from our board liaison, or council liaison. Councilmember Jones.
Let me stand right here. Just you want me to sit there?
No, you're fine.
I don't know the camera. Afternoon, evening, everyone. It's so good to see you guys again. Christina Jones, I'm your liaison. If you're new to the board, I represent District E. This is my second time here at this beautiful community center. If you haven't had a second, there's a beautiful mural on the other side, so please go and check it out. But I'm here to give you an update. So last time we talked, and I know Dr. Lang, you brought up some questions about what council as a whole was thinking about the information given and the recommendations given by the community engagement board. I did raise that at council, to which I didn't get any response. And then we've had a kind of a hectic last few council meetings. So I will follow up with that. I don't have an answer for you, but it's on my list to make sure that we have this conversation. So I will continue, but I don't have a definite answer yet for that. Really excited about the work you guys are doing. The votes from last meeting, I forget the name of the program you guys are looking at. Portico. But I did upload that as well, so let the community and council know the things you're working on. I do want to give you just a brief update. I know that last month we talked about CACs and we talked about how we separated them. Those conversations are ongoing. And I just met with our CAC chair. We just had a retreat last weekend, and we're looking as to what that communication looks like between council and CACs. So kind of looking at it more like a board, like you guys are a board, and turning it into something that has its own liaison that talks directly, so that all that communication can funnel straight to council. I've thrown this idea around to a few councilors. It is something that they're interested in, and I will be talking about it next week at our council meeting. So I just wanted to give you guys an update that there is a process that we are developing it for CACs, but that's what we're thinking of going as long as we get permission from the entire council. So just trying to get that buy-in and doing that groundwork. Other than that, I would love to entertain you guys having questions. That's really the only thing I have for this month.
Were you able, and I thought I looked at the tape to mention during your update about our meetings, inviting any council?
And what I'll do is every month, and thank you for bringing that up. The other thing that I requested from the city manager, and I don't know where it is on the docket, so I'll check back, is when we do our own reports, like when we report out from the committees and we have an update from that committee, I have asked that for each council, they list out which boards that we have so that the community knows which boards we liaise with. And then if available, we could give an update during our council concerns or be separated. So I did uplift that with the city manager. She seemed interested, but I haven't seen it transition yet. So I will follow up with that as well. But thank you for those questions and thoughts. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being here and for those updates. We're gonna power forward. We've got two sort of presentations or guests that will speak to us tonight. The first is from the Office of City of Raleigh Office of Sustainability.
Yeah,
Kinsey
that's me.
Winslow and Megan Anderson.
Yeah, Megan will be here in a little bit, so we can switch forward the presentations, or I could just charge on without her. It's up to you guys. She would love to be here, so if we can wait for her, that'd be great, but if not, I'm happy to go ahead with it.
Okay. We'll be like, we can wait for her.
Okay.
So with permission, I'll kind of amend the agenda a little bit. This also works in our favor because we do not have an outreach committee update and we do not have an equity committee update. So we're really looking heavily in policy today. Karen, would you want to go? Sure, that's fine. And then we'll so Karen Ray is the customer experience manager with the City of Raleigh. And just as a really brief preface to this, which Sarah will talk about for the policy committee update. We've been working with this public comment tracker, and Nadia was kind enough to do a presentation at the city managers meeting for the city last month or this month. I don't know what month it is. She did it last point. And brought not only Karen to our attention in a way that could support and really be a supplement for that tracker and the work policy committee is doing, but also just that they know they're a resource for the board in general. So Karen's going to tell us about what she does, and then we'll let Sarah talk about some of that integration to what policy committee is doing.
Okay, so thank you for having me. I'm Karen Ray. I am the first, and so I feel really excited about that, customer experience manager for the city. I have been with the city for 17 and a half years, and I have been in Raleigh Water. I have been in planning and development, and now I'm in the city manager's office. All of my experience with the city has been in some form or fashion dealing with our customers. And I consider a customer to be anybody who engages us in transactional work. So a utility call, a permit, your trash pickup, all of those things. And so my role is new because we had a few initiatives that were happening from the strategic plan that kind of merged together. And we really felt that we needed to have some consistency in the way that we are handling it throughout the city. So I have been charged with several different components, one of those being a technology solution that will allow us to receive and track customer inquiries across the city. So a lot of the departments have their own software that they use to track issues. Many departments operate using CityWorks so that they can manage the transactional work that they're processing. But what that doesn't do is that doesn't always close the gap for communication back. So we have purchased a software that we will be implementing that will have a public facing aspect. So you can go online and you can log your request if you know what it is you need. If you have a complaint, if you have a suggestion, you can do all of that online. But the other piece to that is that it will allow us to internally track issues. So if I call in and I say to the city, I need to have my trash picked up, they missed it, can you please have somebody call? And then next month I call, hey, they missed it again. We can then see that transactional history so that we don't have to go look in different systems to find it. It's all in one system, which is great. And that I'm going to come back to and how we can engage. Then there's a piece of the new municipal building that we are in the process of getting ready to start building. They're still tearing down. It's quite the process. There will be our first floor in that building is what we're calling our public service area, although I'm not super crazy about that. So we're probably going to have to find a different name for it. But that space will be where you will come in as the public to receive assistance. And so we're going to try to consolidate some services there so that right now, some services are in One Exchange Plaza, some are in the municipal building, some are in Martin Street. We want to consolidate those services so you only have to come one place. And so we're going to work on a plan for what that experience will be like. What's it going to be like when you come in and how can we help you? And in addition, looking at a customer service strategy. What I've been trying to encourage people to think about is we have a new building. So it's like we're moving into a brand new house and you want to leave the stuff that you don't want to bring with you. You're not going to bring your trash from the old house. You're going to leave that where you were and you're going to set up the new space and you're going to make it what you want. So really what I'm trying to encourage people to think about is operating sort of in a new way. And I have had enough encounters with customers in the city throughout my time to know that the majority of people in Raleigh want nothing but the best for Raleigh. And I try really, really hard to help my team and the people that I work with understand that even if given a choice, because we don't have any competitors, that you would still want to come and work with us and you would still want to transact business with us. So that's sort of the philosophy that I have about engaging with our customers. So when I heard that you all were interested in having a system where you could track issues, inquiries, whatever, I was like, this is perfect because I would like to sort of roll some stuff out in phases, but I also want to hear a little bit more about what are you encountering? What is it that you would like to see? And I would also like to offer to all of you that if there are things that you are raising that aren't getting assistance or you would like to have a single point of contact, I did run this by Tansy because that's who I report to. And she said, yes, that's fine. You can do that. I would be happy to be that point of contact. So you don't have to chase departments down. I can do the chasing for you. The benefit of having worked, and sometimes I literally will go chase people down. The benefit of having worked here for so long is that I know pretty much everybody that I need to go to get things resolved. And I don't mind going and knocking on doors and sitting next to people to get answers. And I've been very fortunate to build enough good relationships that when people know I'm asking them for something, it's not just busy work. It is a legit request and it needs attention. And I also will hound them until I get an appropriate answer. And I also like to use my BS card when I feel that I'm not getting an appropriate answer. I will tell people I don't like that answer. That doesn't smell right to me. I think we need more information. Show me where this is in the policy. And the reason why I do that is because sometimes people forget that we have to monitor ourselves. And that policies are great, they're wonderful, but guess what? The world is evolving faster than our policies are. And if we can't use our brain at times to say, this is wrong, this doesn't make sense, where do we have room to operate, then we are failing constantly. And so having come from planning and development, where I irritated the heck out of everybody for 4 years, you're so glad I'm gone. I will tell you that I experienced a lot of that there, and I have learned that we have to take the challenges from our customers. Sometimes we have to say, we cannot do that. And let me tell you why, but there has to be a why to it. It's not just we can't or we won't. But most of the time there is a yes. It's just how we get to yes that can be problematic. So I'm offering my assistance to you. And I will give you all my contact information. And then, so I'm happy to help in any way that I can. I would really love to figure out a way that we can get, and I asked IT this the other day, I said, well, we can create dashboards for them, right? That they can look at, that you can see how many issues are logged, like if we have to create a specific category or something like that. So we're very early in the planning phases, so this is a really good time for us to start these conversations. So I know you guys have done a lot of work, so I'm really happy to hear about that. So is now a good time?
Before we go into
Yeah.
Sarah's report, does anyone have any questions
Yeah.
in general about what Karen says or anything?
Yes.
Dr. Langdon?
No, this is great to hear that this type of approach that the city is using.
Yeah.
And I think the public is waiting on that. This is something that we used to deal with in government that we called one-stop shopping. And I think it's similar,
Yes.
so I know how that's gonna work. So which I'm glad to hear for people that can get to that.
Yes.
The other question is, how can you make that mobile? Because we've been talking about the community engagement vans and coming out of the places.
Yeah.
And this sounds like a good part of that, to have information for this one-stop shopping that would help us when we do that type of thing. So that was.
So that is one of the things that I'm working to try to figure out right now is what is that mobile piece look like? What's appropriate? What events do we feel like we need to be at? Because there are a lot of times that I know staff who are processing all the time don't necessarily know what's happening out in the world. So I would actually love to have more feedback as you all have ideas about that. I have a group that I'm hoping to start working with in the near future that will be helping me take all of those types of ideas and put them into a plan to say, at this point, we can then begin like these engagement series. The biggest thing that I've found is that most people don't know where to get information from. And if you go to the city's website, it can be really overwhelming and daunting if you don't use the right terminology. And so I've been having conversations with our communications department too about how do we educate the public on who they need to reach out to? How do they get assistance from the website? How do they get assistance when they call? How do they get assistance when they come in? Because I've seen it happen before where somebody's come in and they've said, oh, I need help with this, this, and this. And somebody says, oh, well, you need to go to a different building. And then they go to that building and then it's, oh, no, that's Wake County. You need to go down to the courthouse. We've just sent them like all over town and they may or may not get the answer that they need. And I just want that to end because it's crazy. If you take the time to come in, we should take the time to assist you. So that is one of the pieces that we are definitely considering and trying to figure out how we can do that. I think as we get closer, we will probably have, and that's why one of our communication staff members, I've asked to have her assigned to help me with some of this because I want to figure out what the best way to get that information out is. Because if you're not going to our website, putting something on the website doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And we can push stuff out on social media, but not everybody goes to social media. And if you do, are you following the Raleigh, city's social media, which if you're not, you should, but most people don't, right? So that's some of the stuff that we need to figure out. And I've seen all different kinds of things work and not work. And in every community and every facet of the community, people are looking at and care about different things. So we just need to try to hit as many as we can.
So two questions. First, am I understanding that this new solution with that?
That's what I.
All right, then my second question was, I don't know if this still exists anymore. So if this has long gone away and I'm just not remembering, I'm sorry, but wasn't there something called like speed click fix or something?
Yes, so the Quick Fix is still there.
Okay,
And it is integrated with CityWorks, which is our work order management system. I do not love the way it's set up, and it will be going away. We are gonna replace it, because right now, you have to understand our terminology to be able to go in. Like, somebody was like, well, there's an abandoned car. Well, abandoned vehicle had been in there, but then it had been taken away because nobody was monitoring it, and now it's back in there. But then there's other things, like there was something the other day, it was like ROW pothole. Well, I know what that means, but the average person doesn't know what that means. And how do I know if it's in the right of way or not? You know, who knows? Are you measuring to see if it's in the right of way? I'm not bringing my tape measure in the middle of the road. So that's some of the stuff that we have to fix. So it is there. We're gonna replace it. And we're gonna try to make it more user-friendly, and there is a map that will be integrated. So if you don't know the exact address, but you know where you are, you can map your point so that it will be a little bit easier. And then you can even take pictures to upload. This is the problem, this is the sign, whatever. Yeah.
So, number one, I just want to say, I love you. Thank you, and thank you for bringing common sense to the table, because, for my entire career, people who are in the process and doing things don't think, they think in terms of their acronyms, but they don't think like people walking on the street do. And so I appreciate hearing you say, just the way you address things, it's like normal people. And so I appreciate that.
So I apologize in advance if anybody in here is an engineer. My parents were both engineers. I am not an engineer. And I think because I grew up with that, I am so like, oh my gosh, stop thinking like that. Like, this is and so I try really hard to get people to be reasonable. Does it make sense? And I started a couple of years ago saying, I don't need common sense anymore because that doesn't exist. I need uncommon sense. And I need it. I need people to start using their brains, because you cannot just put the paper in the book and not understand why you're putting the paper in the book. You've got to understand the whole picture. So thank you. I appreciate that.
I have a point as far as communication. You say that you're looking into how to engage with the community. One of the things I was thinking about to initially do is to present it through city council meetings and have them do that. And that's something I think they should look at.
So
you'll get a broader than just 16, 18 people here.
absolutely. So my hope and my goal is to be able to bring probably about every 6 months, maybe more frequently if we need it, an update to council to say, this is where we're at, this is where we're headed. I want to be able to bring my initial roadmap so people can have an understanding of, hey, Megan, can have an understanding of what the timeline looks like. And I've got it mapped out myself, but I don't know yet if that's reasonable. So I'm running through the course with everybody to make sure if what I've prepared is reasonable. But yes, that is 100% my goal. And then other groups that exist like this, I would love to be able to speak to as well.
I will third wish you well, because this is good news.
Thank you. I
Coming from the
appreciate
city.
that.
One of the things that came to me when you were talking about working with communications was a way to get this out to residents of the city of Raleigh, which would be an out of the box thinking, might be a door hanger campaign. And I don't know if that's something you want to coordinate with the postal service or something, but I think this would be so helpful for so many people who are frustrated with city government, county government, and going, I'm just done, and they don't do anything good, and that's not true.
Right.
But if there was some way that everybody could know, whether they are taxpayers, whether they are paying water bills, regardless, that this is going to happen. or this is happening, so that it's something hanging on their
Yeah.
doorknob that they see when they walk in the house.
Yeah, I really appreciate, we are recording this, right? Because I want to use that point to prove something to somebody. So yes, I think door tags are very effective. I worked with a group that we used door tags and they were very effective. They got people's attention pretty quickly. And I think that it's something that we have, in a technology focused world, we have forgotten about the human interaction and human touch. And it's something that I see more and more people wanting to have that human interaction. And technology is really important because we have a lot of young kids coming up who say they don't want to talk to anybody. They just want to go online. They want to solve the problem themselves or log it and talk to a computer. And I have 3 of them at home. I love them dearly. They just think very differently than I do. But I also see a lot of people clamoring. We had that period when we were all home and a lot of people didn't have anybody to engage with. And so a lot of people are really coming back into the world and saying, I need you to talk to me. I need to have some face to face. So I really appreciate that comment and that approach too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to say that sometimes efficiency makes us believe that thinking through a situation is better. And I think when we bring experience to the table, we actually need people to feel, to understand the impact of those choices. And so I'm not sure where exactly that sits in the conversation in terms of opening people's eyes, but realistically, what we often see is efficiency serves those within the system, not those that are seeking to receive from the system. And I think that that's an important space to sort of interrogate and reframe so we can actually navigate connection together.
I agree. And we have, one of the groups within the city is spending a lot of time focusing the way that we do things on human-centered design. And we recently did this with planning and development. We had some stuff that we were attempting to modify, some procedures that were very broken. And we had multiple points in the process where we engaged the public and asked people to come in and give us feedback. And we explained what we were thinking and asked for the feedback right there. And we did that multiple times. And that's one of the things that we're going to do with the everything that I'm doing, the processes, is bring people from the community in to say, this is what we're thinking. What do you think about that? This is what the system looks like. How do you feel about that? Is it easy to use? Is it hard to use? Would you use it? What do you like? What do you not like? What do you feel like we should change? And doing that multiple times so that we can get feedback, because we know it's not going to be perfect. Nothing is perfect. And I'd love to say we will get it as close to perfect as possible, but let's be honest, for the city, we are not that great. We try really hard to be that great, but we forget the little things. And so the more we can have the feedback, the more we can, the more frequently we can have the feedback, the better we'll be. So yes, 100% agree, and we are incorporating that. Even if it takes a little longer, I'd rather it take a little bit longer, but get the feedback to make it as good as we can. And then we'll see what happens.
I'd like to have time for one more comment. I really want to applaud the approach with policies, because in government and other places they make laws and stuff. Many times when they try to enforce them, they forget the intent. And so when they have to go back, even though that's the law, but the intent when it was written was broader. But anyway, as a new committee, one of our subcommittees is policy and to review new and old policies. So as we develop through these, it's good to know that the attitude and approach that you're using is exactly what has been expected from many of these surveys that have been done of the residents here in Raleigh. So we really kind of look forward to this relationship development that we're getting now. But again, residents want to see results. The trust and transparency that I hear developing here is exactly what they want. But again, at the same time now, they'll start seeing or will see some results. That's what they want. Some of the ones we hear from, well, yeah, I heard that before. I'll wait and see what happens. So those are the kind of things we want to keep in mind.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, and there have been times when I've said, the public has zero trust in us because we don't follow through, and, every time you don't return a phone call, you've lost their trust, and every time you tell them no to something without giving them an explanation, or you don't run something down, you're losing their trust, and that's something that, for me, is gonna be when I am looking at people who are involved with the program, they've got to have that mindset. I need people who are gonna chase things down and we're gonna find the answers, who are gonna give you the whys, who are gonna try to build that trust back up, because it wasn't always like that. I mean, when I started with the city 17 years ago, I think that there were a lot of people who maybe they didn't engage, but I think there was a higher level of trust. They knew that if they asked us to do something, we were gonna do it. And for some reason, that's really changed. And I think part of it is we just haven't done a good job of keeping up, and of educating our staff. Either, we teach them what they need to know to do their job. We don't necessarily educate them. There's a difference in training versus education.
Any other questions for Karen? Besides asking her to be on the board.
You guys are great. I will come back anytime you want.
We put on a standing supplement.
Yeah. So, if you don't mind, I'll sit while you're going over your stuff. That'd be great. And I'm gonna grab my notebook so I can take some notes.
Thank you.
So Sarah, do you want to go into the policy committee?
Yeah, and I'm gonna borrow Dr. Lane's words where just a second ago where he said, thinking through the original intention. So do y'all remember the original intention of our tracker was that we wanted to make sure if somebody came here and left a public comment, that we knew how long it took to resolve the issue, and that we didn't forget about them. That if their issue wasn't resolved, we kept them in the tracker until that was resolved. And so the tracker that we have is this spreadsheet. You remember the original inspiration was the Domino's Pizza Tracker. It's the idea that you could check and see how your public comment went through the process, like was it in the oven or was it out for delivery? But after we worked on it, we discussed that this should actually be more internal, like all committee documents or all board documents. Of course, it is public facing and that anybody wants to look at it. But that overall, we were using it for us, not to publicly share where somebody was in the process, but to make sure that we weren't forgetting anyone and that we could always see how long it had been since somebody replied to a comment or since somebody left a comment. When we had replied to them, what action was done. There were some suggestions that we'd be able to quickly tag things that came out of the last conversation we had so that at the end of the year, we could maybe present a report. We got X number of comments on this topic, X number of comments on this topic. We wanted to be able to take notes on how the item was followed through, who it was referred to. And in the last couple of months, we've been really focused on what does it look like when we get a comment and we need to refer that to somebody awesome at the sustainability office, right? What does it look like to do that? Do we contact them directly? Does it come from our chair? Do we need to warn departments that's going to start doing that? Things like this. I think a lot of what we wanted to do, we just heard in what Karen is trying to build. And if you are asking if it hurts my feelings that I built something that we're not going to use, absolutely not, because I think hers sounds better personally. Now, I think that because it sounds like, and what I'm going to probably propose to y'all as a board is that the policy committee have a follow-up conversation with Karen to address more details into what it would look like, what her timeline is. I think we'll probably keep this running until we have that partnership in place. If we had gotten public comments today, I would have reported them in the tracker. We've already approved a procedure for how we use this tracker. I think we keep doing that until the policy committee has a chance to talk to Karen and learn more. But that's the overall vision I'm seeing now, is that it sounds like everything we wanted to do. As long as we're going to be able to get a report from the system that Karen's talking about that tells us what happened to the comments that were entered, how long did it take? Can we see a summary of all the comments that were referred to by our board? Those kinds of things. As long as we'll have access to that information pretty easily, then I don't see why we would duplicate it.
I do want to mention one point, just first, it's not work that's going unnoticed or undone. We did a lot of work in building that and taking all of the board's feedback and incorporating things in a way that would make sense for us to use and for anybody else that comes along. So it's not efforts in vain, but also not in vain because whatever way we can work with Karen in this new system is great, but also keeping in mind that's specific in some ways to referrals. So there are things that will come through, that may come through public comment that we talk about as policy committee and say, well, that needs to go to the board to decide or to discuss or to deal with internally that we can handle, or maybe we can work with those meeting. So this is still a tool that we can use for anything that stays within the board or needs to go to committee. So either way, it's serving us, but on the technology side and the kind of the outward side, working with any other department for the city, this partnership is important as well.
Absolutely. And I was actually thinking, I would like to see if there's a way to be able to, because it's a board related thing, if there's a way for us to design something as part of the system where it goes to either your staff liaison or to, to you, so that you can still track it and address it within the system. I'm gonna check on that. But I think this is great because the other thing is with you continuing to track it, I then know what types of issues you're getting and what those categories look like. And it gives us a starting point because I'm trying to categorize things very appropriately. And we've also been told that we can do all these wonderful things with AI, which is great, and that's really cool. But the thing is, you have to have the information in order to do something with it. So without the information, we have no place to start. So I think this is a great place, and I'm happy to, like I said, I'm happy to be a contact. If you guys need to get up with the department or you get something that's really weird and you're not sure what to do with it, let me know. I am absolutely willing to chase that down. Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I just want to make explicit is sort of this journey that we've taken in terms of working through values that support equity, right? In terms of creating access. Part of that was us moving around the city and trying to be in different places to open up the doors, and then beginning to develop transparency and working in accountability. And I know that we're now at this phase, which I think is really important for all of us to recognize and sort of represent in our communities, that there's a moment perhaps of turning back to reiterate. So this feels like that second level energy that we've pushed out MVP, the most viable product, for what we were seeing at that point in time. And then as we began to learn, we're activating that education in a way that ultimately is bringing, hopefully, tighter integration, which I think is so key in complex systems, right? Like the reality is, it sounds like, and I know this from living in Greensboro and sort of watching from afar, that Raleigh, along with several other cities, Greensboro sort of included, just grew really fast. And some systems were not designed to scale. And so we have to take this opportunity to perhaps deconstruct or explore to then figure out what is sustainable, what is ultimately scalable. And I feel like we're hitting upon it. So I just wanted to put that into words so that everybody can see that. And on one level, feel the accomplishment, right? Like, because I think sometimes on this board, we might struggle a little bit because we don't have immediate outcomes all the time. We don't necessarily have a direct correlation between what we do and what success looks like. And I just want to uplift this as a moment of what equitable success might actually be in a way that resists some of the tendencies that we have in the broader society, in capitalism and all of those things, when we want to be efficient and do all of this or that, the other. So I really appreciate the work from the policy committee in keeping forward, and then the synergy or the synchronicity ultimately, right, of like, oh, wow, suddenly this new position is there, and knowing that we have a chance, I think, to move closer to affecting change that supports all of our communities.
Something I can elevate while our council members here, just to give the background on it. Nadia took this to the city manager, or sorry, to the manager's meeting, correct? So just to illuminate the process, y'all, we wanted, blame screen. Anybody heard me say? We wanted this tracker to exist because we saw a problem. So we created an MVP steps point to solve this problem. Once we had enough of an MVP, we said together, this isn't perfect, but it's working enough. Let's ask our staff liaison, please, can you share this with the city managers when that happened is when the duplicate efforts with Karen were discovered. So what a cool illumination of the importance of a staff liaison to be aware of what we're doing so that it could be uplifted to a room where then duplicate efforts could be observed. And so I think, sharing that win with our council liaison is really exciting because it shows like this works. We as a group identified an issue that we were seeing, we created an MVP. When it was uplifted, we found this effort, and now it's going to be even, I think, even better. So, like Jeff said, and Stacy said, with this not being a wasted effort, good job, y'all. Yes, we did something cool.
Yeah. And that was actually my first meeting, just so you know. I mean, things happen when they're supposed to, so that was good. And poor Naughty was like, I didn't know that. So, here we are. No, 100%. I think this is fantastic. And I think to your point, that's exactly why groups like this are important to have. Because we don't always have the best ideas. We think we might, but we don't. And we need other people to bring those ideas forward.
Any other questions or comments? So again, the policy committee, the policy committee has two other things that we would like to talk about. We can talk about when that is in the agenda, but related to the tracker, the policy committee will be establishing more communication with Karen so that we can learn about this timeline while continuing to leverage the tracker. There's not anything as far as outstanding public comment that we need to bring up from the tracker, so that could be my tracker part. Do you want me to do the other things in policy, or do you want to skip around?
I think so. I'd like to just go ahead and move through it.
Great, and the next section should be brief because y'all did your homework and read the packet. So you've already read what your policy committee was asked to create. As your policy committee, now that we are creating social media accounts for our community engagement board, you asked for a procedure for access to the social media and email tools. I'm gonna say that word again, access. This is this is what you're allowed to post about. Okay, policy committee was asked to control access. I think the idea of what we post and how that goes out is potentially a different committee, or if you want us to address that, we can leave that request. This is about access. So for that first policy that y'all already read, as you saw it, it outlines how somebody gets access, what that procedure is, so that we have it in writing. So I'm going to get us up for comments.
And just for clarity's sake, which I know it's in the actual document, but this is, one of the things we talked about heavily was for continuity. So we are all no longer on this board. Nothing should leave with us that is this important. That's foundational. So anybody that comes in should be able to know how I can access the community engagement board email to directly talk with citizens, or how I know where to find the Facebook password because I'm the chair of the outreach committee, whatever that is. So we didn't have any of those things established. So this, like Sarah said, is strictly for access of information that's relative to the whole board that anyone moving forward needs to know about.
And then, thank you, Stacy. Under procedure, under annual access review, the last bullet there says that any changes in access are documented and approved by the board chair. If you flip over, you see my example of what that documentation could look like. And if you didn't know that I had two young kids, now you do, because you can see Tony Stark was kicked out of access. Dr. Bruce Banner still has access, and Carol Danvers and Natalia Romanov still have access. So the Marvel team is described here, and we know who has access and who doesn't. And you can see where the signatures will go. So this is a sample. We weren't necessarily saying it has to look this way, but if you all approve this procedure, I think that is what could be created. And Stacy or Carmen, since I love to ask Carmen how things officially go as far as votes go. I know. So procedure, do we have to vote the procedure? Remind me what the procedure is.
So this is being presented for approval. We can send that to a vote and then go into discussion.
And so we would like to ask for a vote to approve it. I just have a question. Do we want to get a motion before we have discussions? Or is
Yeah.
Is that yeah,
or is it your name?
Jeff, do you have a motion? That's right.
I would love to make a motion.
But you're not the chair, so you can't have.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, say again.
I would love to make a motion to accept the policy as presented.
Beautiful. Second. By Carmen. Discussion on this document.
Just a really tiny question. All right, so it says agree to, like, is that supposed to be verbal, signature, like, what is that? Like a vote?
Where are we at?
Second bullet point under procedure.
Yes.
I'm sorry, second number and first bullet.
The media code of conduct that's mentioned under two times, once under responsibilities board chairs in that first bullet. I have notes, this is being created by the outreach committee, so we didn't want to overstep whether it was like a signature or what, but to your point, then we shouldn't say that there, because that's confusing. Yeah, so maybe we can
Feel particular sense of ownership over whether the outreach committee finds that. Since you're the access committee. Good point. Adhere to. Yes, sir.
I would say I would love Outreach's perspective on it because it talks about branding. You know, we're living in a different space outside of policy. It's more PR. So I still stand behind my motion in that sense because we can fill in the blank there. But I do think that it doesn't necessarily have to fully sit with policy. I would prefer it not. Let me say it that way, actually. Just the media piece.
Say that you said you prefer that not sit with policy.
As in policy, just do it and then present another thing. That I'd love outreach perspective on it.
That's fine. Yeah, all I was picking on was just like the word, just to understand what was meant by it. Because agree could look like a lot of things. And if you don't want it to look like something, that's fine.
And so what we're trying to say there is that they need to agree to the media code of conduct before getting access, is where the access document. And we don't want to be too specific because the media code of conduct hasn't been created yet. But does that mean we should wait on this until we know what that is? Or should we change the language there? Or just say, you remember,
To be fair, the policy committee met before the outreach committee. So this was supposed to be on outreach's agenda for this month. So it was a little bit of a hope that this would be what was presented. So if it needs to be amended in terms of even code of conduct, we came up with. So that could change if policy decides something else. So
If we just want to have whatever, the outreach committee will figure out what a mechanism to agree to looks like that's fine.
and then we can
I
revise
just want to
it
make
and
sure
make
that
this
we
more
understand
specific.
if that's what we're doing.
That makes sense.
So I don't disagree with any of your points, but I do want to suggest that the first bullet says agree and the second bullet says the agreement. And I think that they go hand in hand. And if I don't think, I'm throwing this out there just as a comment. I don't think a gentleman's agreement would be the best kind of thing for a policy board and having access to those kind of, the social media account.
Oh, yeah, quick, I'm not saying it would be a gentleman's agreement to get access. I was saying between the two committees, like, if you just want to say, we'll wait for the next outreach committee meeting and we will know.
Like Amber and I would have a gentleman's agreement that I would make that more specific when it was
Oh.
updated.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
I was like, what?
No.
Your promise still behave?
But to your point, it does say agreement and that is gonna be documented, but that could mean like a verbal vote that is written down, or it could mean a signature on something, and that I'm being very nitpicky, and I know that, so.
Yeah, I think
just wanna
that's a little too nitpicky for.
That's fine.
For this document, because another committee is creating. So I think agreement would be agreement would be a very general thing here. And the code of conduct would have the specificity in it. So I think we can leave it like it is and it will be addressed.
Because we don't know if it's biometric 25 years from now. So
Yeah.
just agreeing is agreeing. You know, I don't know. But
is it the intention that the community, the outreach committee is gonna monitor this, or, and how, is it one person, two people, three people, is there a max?
The board chair is going to manage and coordinate access permission. Yeah, so the board chair would do that, and so the board chair is referring to this document for any questions about how that is done.
And also manage the accounts.
So is board chair managing the account, or are the people that are admins managing the account?
That is a great question, and I think as we consider the media code of conduct and who posts and how they go through a process of getting posts out, I think that, like, this does say access and it starts with the board chair, but as far as managing them as in what gets posted and who can post, I think that would be a separate topic. But this does control what we were asking for, which is how do we track who has access, and when you leave the board that your access is gone.
So,
I would say that it's implied by access, because if it's a social media policy, I, as a social media user, can just look at things. But if I'm asking for access, I think that there's another layer, which is another piece of this policy, right? It doesn't say everybody on the board has to have access. Everybody on the board is going to get access. So I think there's partially a self-selection that's kind of, indicated in this space. And then additionally, sort of like recognizing that those folks that are requesting access and agree to the code of conduct would almost inherently be moved into a space of being able to post, or, perhaps it is, is the concern just about what access means?
I think that, I guess the reason for my asking would be just be careful about the number of admins that you have on a Facebook page. Because we have witnessed in our organization across the country, lots of community standard violations that are an algorithm that never really get answered.
Or pages hacked.
And it'll lead you up to more, exactly, and pages being hacked, which we have experienced too. So that's the only reason I ask, if there needs to be kind of a set number, not to exceed, or how you're gonna manage that.
I think part of that comes in with, I'm sorry, just really quickly, I think part of that comes in the sort of sample access document as well. So as the chair, I don't plan on posting anything that would be for outreach, but say Amber goes rogue and she starts ranting on the CUB Instagram account, posting stories. At least I have the ability to say, maybe not. Maybe not.
Not today.
Right. But we also know that if her access needs to be removed, there's at least one other person that can do that. So I think that,
and the chair always.
yeah, and I think that sort of form to say who has access was one of the counterpoints, or one of the checkpoints that Carmen brought up to say, we should probably be careful about who can do what, when, always watching our guys.
And just to clarify the intent with transition and access, it's not automatic. So the board chair automatically gets access for the oversee that we just talked about. But if you join the board, it doesn't mean you get social media access. It's if your position or committee or responsibility or whatever means that you should have social media access. We gotta make sure this fits first, and then this would precede you getting access. And then make sure that for whoever has access, is that being checked regularly.
And so, based on the discussion that we're having, it was expected that the outreach committee was going to review this. Maybe we need to change our motion so that the outreach committee can finish their review for these kind of comments and make sure that it's all agreed on, or are we saying the discussion is taking care of that?
I'm hoping my hope is that the discussion's taking care of that, but that after we approve this, that we have a direct ask that this media code of conduct be created. Right. And that would be the next step. That's what I was thinking.
Well, I just want to clarify.
And I also just want to say that we can, it can be voted down as well. I mean, I just was moving to get us to the discussion part of it.
Will we not proceed as y'all want, and then outreach committee does this meeting for conduct, and then if something, I can't imagine what would align, but let's say something doesn't, we can always request tiny revision, right?
Always.
Or do you feel like we progress to it?
And keeping in mind, this is just a procedure for how to access and how to transition that access. And it is, inclusive of other things like our email address. So it's for kind of the keepsake of all of our documents. But how we do that.
Any other questions for me before we?
Just a comment, I love that we're taking seriously a conversation about transition of power and it being a peaceful experience.
We can change that if you want.
No, I appreciate it so much.
Okay, any other discussion on this, social media email access review and update before we go to a vote? So motion's been made by Jeff, seconded by Dr. Sarah, Carmen.
It was Carmen.
Let me go to the taper. All of those in favor, please audibly say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Excellent. So this will go back to live with the policy committee as it stands, and then we will move forward with outreach, and what they come back with the code of conduct, or whatever you want to call it. We can change that too.
I think so.
Whenever they get to meet these weeks. Is there anything else for policy?
Just making sure that that is where we want that to be, that it's in outreach and that outreach is okay with that, or do we need to have a conversation about that?
I say we leave the procedure where it is and let our.
Sorry, not the procedure. It is the next step that the code of conduct is being taken on by the outreach committee. Are we clear on this? Okay. We need to ask them.
No, when we talked about it, you know, before this, so they know it's part of their.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
But for clarification, have we specifically made that ask in the meeting? You said you talked about it in email?
To ask for them to take this up?
Yes.
Yes, it was supposed to have been on their agenda for this month, but they didn't meet.
Okay.
So we already asked for it to be on their next one. Leave Amber alone. She's got a lot going on.
Stacey, I'm sorry, there was one other thing, just to close the loop. Last meeting, y'all requested that we make sure that the new community engagement board email is the owner of the tracker, so just wanted to confirm.
Okay. Thanks for hanging out with us for this long. We're gonna move forward. Like I said, we don't have an equity or an outreach update. So we're gonna move back to our presentation from the Office of Sustainability. So Kenzie Winslow and Megan Anderson are here. Why not a round of applause for these?
Thank you, and sorry I was running a little late coming from another meeting. I was thinking we started at 5, it's a little off, but I've met a lot of you before, seen you in different meetings, but I don't think I've met all of you face to face. So really good to be here. Thank you for all the work you do. I work really closely with Nadia and Taisha. We're so excited when we created the Community Engagement Board. We are the fellow Office of Sustainability. So I've been with the city for about 9 years now. Just a little bit about me, I moved to Raleigh for this job. So I've been in the city for about that same amount of time. I have been quite the nomad my whole life. I've done environmental science, education, working with government, but not for government before I came here. Lived in Asia and Africa for a long time doing sustainable development work, and lived in Australia for a while doing work with local populations. I moved around the States a lot too. So I really, really love Raleigh. I bought my first place ever and definitely feel like it's home. And we do a lot of engagement in the community. And so it's so awesome to have a whole group that's really specializing in this to help make things better. Really today, Kenzie's the star of the show, and I just wanted to come and say hi because we haven't come say hi to you yet since you started. So I'm just going to give you a few slides, and then Kenzie, I'll let her introduce herself, and she's going to talk about one of our programs that we have that we just want to make sure you know about because you do such a good job of engaging in the community. So with that, could somebody click for me? Or okay, thank you. We can go through. So this is just a quote that we like. Just sharing as we get going into this, which I think probably resonates a lot with your group, just about how much we all matter in making things happen around the world, whether that's, through engagement or a lot of other things. But when we think about climate change, we really think about it from the perspective of people, how to make the environment better, but how to make sure that we do that for people as well. So it's a nice quote I like to start off with sometimes. Next slide, please. I won't go through all this, but I just wanted to show you that when we're thinking about climate action work, we've been really working on this for quite a long time. So even before this timeline, the city is really, and actually Karen just left, but she was in Raleigh Water before too. There's a lot of things we've done for a really long time in departments to work on these topic areas. And I feel really lucky now that we have an Office of Sustainability, which has been around since 2008. And that really helps us work interdepartmentally with all the other city departments and with anybody in the community. So we are really similar in that way with the community engagement group as well. And we also have an environmental advisory board. So they're similar to your group, and we meet once a month and talk about a lot of these issues too. So I won't go through all these details, but just wanted you to know we have a lot going on, and I'm going to talk about our community-wide climate action plan. When we've been working on things for a long time before then too, but to have a community-wide plan with hundreds of people in the community that helped us write it is really an exciting place for us to be. So we do have a greenhouse gas goal, 80% reduction by 2050, which is a pretty common one for folks around the world to have actually. And I'm going to go to the next slide here and show you a little bit more about this, but that is not the only thing that we focus on. So we're really proud to say that in Raleigh, our community-wide climate action plan was actually one of the first in the country to focus not only on greenhouse gas reduction, but also just as important is climate equity, environmental justice, and building community resilience to the impacts of climate change. So the few slides I'm going to show you are going to talk about how we really embed all those things into action. And that's another reason I'm so excited that we have a community engagement board and we have community engagement, because I know that's a lot of your focus as well. And I've already heard you talking about it a bunch today about it's all about equity. So, sorry. I mentioned one more thing. So as I mentioned, those are our kind of high impact objectives. And then within our plan, they're broken up by these high impact areas, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more in the next slide, please. So actually, we're about to update this. I did want to mention May 5th, 14th is a work session that we're going to give council an update on everything that's been happening in the whole community around climate action. We did one last year and it's on our webpage, and we can follow up when we follow up with you with that information. It's pretty easy to scan and just see that it just goes across everything in the kitchen sink going on in the community, which I'll share a little bit more about. We're also updating our greenhouse gas information. As you know, there's lots of different kinds of metrics that track different kinds of things, which I won't go all into today, but we are seeing a little bit of a shift here. I'll give you a little bit of a preview. So we're seeing our buildings and energy greenhouse gases go down, which is great. We're seeing our transportation go up a little bit. So overall, we are seeing some reductions, but we're seeing them flip-flop a little bit. The good news is we're already working a lot on a lot of these topic areas to try to drive down those greenhouse gases. And knowing that our levels are going back down to where we were in 2008 is actually pretty awesome, because we all know how much Raleigh's grown since then. But we're still working on it. So in May, we'll have all of our information together if you want to listen in and see kind of where we are more closely on that. Okay, I'll switch to the next one. So this is just another way to show you our goal, which I will say, for purposes of looking, we have this, dotted line that shows where we're trying to get to our goal. That's not how that works really when you're thinking about reducing. It won't be a straight line, basically. It'll be more of going up and down like this to get there, based on the strategies that we have that I'll talk about a little bit more. But transportation and energy are two big areas that are really areas of high impact. And we know we're still trying to, the other lines are in there. You can't see them because they're a lot smaller. But we do know we're still trying to figure out how we're going to get there all the way to 2050, looking at technology, innovation, working together to figure out how else to get there as well. Next slide. So I'm just going to talk a few more minutes then. I talked about greenhouse gases, want to talk about building community resilience. As many of you know, we're just having a lot of changes happening in the community, right? So there's more extreme weather happening. There's more extreme days of more heat. There's more extreme days of heat waves. Nights aren't cooling off as long, which is really dangerous for people, the environment, animals, plants. We're having more extreme precipitation, flooding, and a lot of other areas that can kind of affect things. So actually, you can go to the next slide, and that really ties in closely with equity. So really from that perspective, people are more vulnerable to things. So in Raleigh, we see that heat and flooding are two of the biggest climate impacts to folks happening day to day. And then on top of that, a lot of other things are going on in the community which exacerbate that. If you're lower income, you live in a floodplain in low-lying areas, which we know historically, a lot of folks that are lower income, people of color, are in those areas. If you have substandard housing that maybe isn't as energy efficient, if you work outside, or you live outside, you have a health sensitivity, and a lot of these things you can see playing out in most cities across the country, as you all know. So we are really kind of thinking about when we build any of our strategies, how we're making sure we're bringing everybody up along the way, and we're designing them so we don't leave people further behind when we're doing that. All right, so next slide. Just a couple things. This is just to kind of show you when we go into our climate implementation report. I'm not going to, there's millions of things happening, which are pretty awesome around the community. But in our buildings and energy section, the strategies relate to energy efficiency in buildings, greener energy supplies, and then renewable energy. So we're trying to make our energy cleaner for people, less pollution, and more affordable. We're doing a ton of pilots right now around energy efficiency and solar on low-income housing as an example. And we all know there's a lot of different kinds of low-income housing. So there's a lot of different barriers and challenges and opportunities that we're working through to try to bring people more clean energy options. And then Duke Energy is our big utility. Raising costs keep coming, and they're going to keep coming, right, for folks too. And so we're trying to think about how to help people in the short and long term as those things happen. So affordability isn't just about how much your rent is. It's also about how much it is to live in your home and make it the best place that you can in your quality of life. Next one. So actually just wanted to highlight for a second, I'm not going to go through this because Kenzie's here to talk about it, but she's going to be talking today. And this is just one of the many things happening that help us create toolkits for the community. Businesses are very high impact in the community. And we also have neighbors and people that are high impact in general too. So we have different toolkits for them that we would love your help getting the word out on. Next slide, please. And then transportation and land use, that has to do with alternative transportation options. So anything to get us out of our car and not driving. We also know a lot of people drive and we're very car centric in the South especially. So we're never going to get everybody out of their car, but when people are in their car or riding a bus, how is that the cleanest transportation option that there is? Land use also is a big piece of this. And so where are people living? Do they have access to things where they don't have to get in a car? They don't have to be in a car as long. So all those things are part of this process. We are also doing a lot with EV infrastructure. So we know now not everybody can afford an EV, but also if you think about that, that is a big transition that's going to happen over several years. And we want to make sure everybody has access to clean energy. And so when you're thinking about putting in a new facility that's going to be around for 50 years or longer, if you don't put some infrastructure in the beginning, you're going to leave people even further behind. So we're looking at a lot of ways to make sure that we're lifting up people that might be left out of conversations like that, so they aren't left out of that clean energy transition as well. Thank you. Last category, really exciting as well. So that cross-cutting piece for the resilience and cross-cutting means that what are all the things that we need to do in every action that we take to make sure that we're the how, basically, how you implement something. So we want it to be resilient, to make sure that people are less vulnerable to climate impacts. We want to make sure it's equitable. So we're doing it in a way that it's designed that everybody can be part of the strategy. We want to make sure that financing is part of it, education and outreach is part of it, innovation and pilots are part of it. So that cross-cutting piece is the thing, the how all the strategies and the whole plan should be implemented. And then also things like reducing waste and creating more efficiency and a lot of our green space. So preserving and growing natural space, looking at food equity, food security issues, and a lot of other things. So there's a lot of different kinds of things, pollinator habitat, green space, how important that is for quality of life, and stormwater issues. So flooding and heat, like we mentioned, are a lot of the things we're working on. And so a lot of mitigation strategies go around. If you guys have questions, I could talk to you all day and give more examples too, and happy to come back and talk more. And I would say first, definitely come in May and listen to the new update. And then we might even do a little bit more of a roadshow after we talk to council as well. But I can answer a few questions now, but I do want to give Kenzie time, and I'm always happy to come back up if there's time too. Yeah.
Two quick questions. One, is this presentation available to us
I think we had already sent it, so we,
I can send it, I have it.
okay, yeah. Mhm.
Second one is, we're doing a lot of construction, up to 20-story buildings. Is that gonna be a condition that they have better efficiency in those buildings?
That is a really good question. We love that. So as you know, in North Carolina, I like to call it a Mother May I state. So I'll explain a little bit, right? So we were working really hard with lots of partners, and at the state level, they control the building energy efficiency codes. I will say that's been a very hot topic. We were getting some traction there, but the state level has said that they're keeping our building code levels at a certain level, and the cities are not allowed to regulate it. However, we are working on, because we're a Mother May I State, we stole somebody that is in our team from planning and development that was one of our superstar partners. And we're working on packages and ordinances that talk about levers and incentives that can help us try to move the needle. We have our clean transportation package we're working on now that's actually with the Planning Commission right now. The next stage is going to work on green buildings. We're still working on the name, but everything around how do you make buildings more efficient? So solar energy efficiency, even stormwater and those other things. And then we'll do a resilience package too, which natural landscapes, more resilience pieces. So we're trying to think about where we can pull a lever and control something, because that's always the most effective, and where we have to incentivize too. That's a great question and a big deal.
Thank you.
So piggybacking on what he said and what you said, in terms of rezonings, that kind of thing, is it helpful if the community comes in and talks to the developers about these kinds of natural ways to do it, GSI, that kind of stuff, that might not be what the state says is required, but if communities come in and talk to folks about, is that an important piece?
Yeah, and I see that happening more and more, and I see not every time I see that without certain things. I know the city does a lot of engagement around that. We actually held an affordable housing workshop the other day for developers for affordable housing for sustainability features. I was blown away. So many people came. It was amazing. A lot of developers came, a lot of landscape architects, a lot of folks, and we were talking about stormwater and mitigation strategies, which can be all sorts of cool stuff, from the cistern to a big green skip. A lot of things that you don't know how many things are happening under the ground that are so important with that. We were talking about our pilots around solar, and we had Duke Energy there with some new programs we're working on for energy efficiency, and they can get a lot of credits or reduce energy bills for residents. So we're looking around those, to your point, to try to figure that out. And I think that, to your point, the more, and actually Jason that I was mentioning a minute ago did design some criteria. So when the Planning Commission is reviewing, they can kind of see a little bit more about, like, how does this affect greenhouse gas emissions? Sometimes it's a positive and sometimes it's a negative. And, for them to be able to have that at the time they're making a decision, to make a little bit more of an informed decision, is part of what we've kind of designed into that process a little bit more. Yeah, we could come back and tell you more about it at some point. And Jason's kind of on the road as he's doing these ordinances and things too. Question? Okay.
Yeah, I'll have a question, but I'll wait till she's done.
And I'm always happy to come back up if something else comes up.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a beautiful tee up for our sustainable business toolkit, which I think you can flip to the next slide, which we've developed as a way for businesses, and other entities to engage with sustainability work. So really it's just a collection of programs, very, very few of which we in the Office of Sustainability host. So it's programs hosted by the state, the county, the city, our community partners, that can help businesses in Raleigh to engage, and help us reach our goals related to greenhouse gas emissions, but also building community resilience, as well as moving towards a more equitable city. So you can flip to the next slide. I won't tell you about sustainability in Raleigh because you just heard about it. The next slide has, so just an overview of the toolkit. Like I said, it's a collection of programs that can help businesses reach and set new sustainability goals, but also in turn save some money, become more efficient, be recognized for their sustainability efforts, and get more involved in their community. Next slide talks about how, despite the name, our Sustainable Business Toolkit isn't just for businesses. It has a collection of programs that could be used by schools, apartments, homeowners. Really anyone could benefit from programs like solar installations or recycling or rain gardens or things like that. So our hope is that as you're listening today, you can think about where there are individuals or businesses in your network that might benefit from some of the programs that we're sharing today. So that we can move towards sustainability as a city. Next slide is we're gonna jump into programs. There's a lot of programs in this toolkit. I'll preface it with that. It's worth celebrating that there's so many programs and ways to engage in sustainability, but that being said, we're gonna move pretty quickly through them. So the first category is one related to building improvements and new facilities. So these are just ways that buildings undergoing construction or like significant renovations can engage with sustainability. The first two are grants offered by the Small Business Division by the City of Raleigh. The first of which is the Building Upgrade Grant, which is a way that businesses can get funding for programs or for upgrades, like on the interior of their businesses to help bring more customers into their spaces, make them more energy efficient, and cover costs like HVAC, flooring, kitchen upgrades, things like that. The next one is our facade rehab grant, which funds similar but the opposite, upgrades on the outside of a building just to make them more attractive, bring more people inside of them, can fund things like windows, lighting, signage, or things that improve energy efficiency, and again, covers about half the costs. The next one in this category is the Green Raleigh Review, hosted by our Stormwater Division, and it's a way for new buildings or ones undergoing renovation to have an expedited process if they're including green stormwater infrastructure in their site plan. So things like having permeable pavement or pavement removal, green roofs, additional trees, things like that. The next category is ones that relate to commuting and transportation. As you heard Megan talk about, that's a massive source and a growing source of our greenhouse gas emissions in the city. So we have lots of programs to address that. The first of which is the Commute Smart Raleigh program. This is offered by the Transit Department in the City of Raleigh. And it can connect with businesses to help them identify ways that their employees can get to work other than driving in a car to work by themselves. So they can talk to their employees, figure out what's going to work best for them. And it can also benefit businesses as they're having to provide less parking for their employees and things like that. The next slide is a program, the real-time transit information screens is a way for any screen to display upcoming mobility arrivals. So thinking like the BRT that's coming, as it's coming close to where the screen is located, there would be a ding on that screen. So if you're in a hotel lobby or in a business reception area, you can know when those are coming soon. Next slide. This one is the EV Ready Playbook that we felt that has tons of information, anything you really need to know about putting in an EV charger at a site. So it has information on siting, planning, permitting, ADA accessibility, all the things you need to know to install a charger at your home or at your business, which, as Megan was saying, is important now and going to be even more important moving forward. Next one is we have a couple of Duke Energy's programs in here. This one is their charger prep credit program, and it's a way just to get funding to make the installation of a charger and take off some of those upfront costs. Next one. The commercial clean vehicle credit is just a federal tax credit that we wanted to point out that can help cover the cost of a business electrifying their fleet, and this can also cover maybe things you wouldn't immediately think of, but things like transitioning commercial lawn mowers to electric. So things a little bit outside the box. Next slide. Next category of ones, pretty broad, is programs that can help businesses save energy, water, waste, and cut some costs. Another Duke Energy program is their Business Energy Saver program, in which a Duke Energy consultant would come out to a business, walk around with them, help identify some ways that they could save energy in their spaces. And then it can also fund up to 80% of the installation of the recommendations that they had just made. Next one is the Waste Production Program, or Waste Production Partners Program. Pretty similar. This one's hosted by the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, where they have retired engineers come out to spaces, help them identify where they can move towards sustainability in different areas like waste and water reduction, and help them set goals so that they can move towards them. The NCDEQ also offers an environmental stewardship initiative, which is a way for businesses to connect with other businesses who are working on sustainability and share best practices and talk about what's going well and where they could maybe use some resources from businesses that have already done these kind of things. Next one is Raleigh Refill, which is hosted by the Office of Sustainability, and it's a way for businesses in the Raleigh community to indicate that they're a place that Raleigh residents and visitors can come fill up their water bottle for free, pretty simple program, but it's a way to really easily curb some of the single-use plastic water bottles that we see in our landfills and our oceans and things like that. Solid waste services in the city of Raleigh also offers a specific program for businesses to pick up their recycling, as well as multifamily households. So I think those really tall apartments. This is a way for businesses to cut some of the waste sending to the landfill, but also cut some of the costs of the garbage pickup because recycling is cheaper than the garbage pickup. Wake County also offers tons of resources on waste management practices. So things like e-waste or construction or demolition that maybe the city of Raleigh can't handle, though the county has tons of resources on what to do with all of those specific kinds of waste. And they also have a grant program that can fund up to $10,000 for businesses who want to do different waste reduction projects. Next one is the city of Raleigh offers guides of how to get solar on a business or how to put it on your home. It can just make the process a lot easier and simpler for the permitting and inspection pieces of it. And relatedly, the next one is a solar tax credit, another federal tax credit that businesses can leverage and take some of the upfront cost away to use clean energy to power their spaces. Next one is the reuse water program is a way for businesses who use tons of water for things like flushing toilets or irrigating to use water that has been highly treated wastewater. And it's a lot cheaper than just buying the normal water, and it also can support water quality in the Neuse River. Next one are a couple of programs that talk about stormwater and water quality. The first one of which is our Rainwater Rewards, which it says it funds up to 90%, but there's actually 100% funding pilot going on right now that, these projects are ones that capture and clean rainwater right where it falls before it can go into local waterways. So this protects the local waterway water quality as well as reduces flooding on different properties. So a stormwater staff would come out to the property, walk around with you, help identify if a cistern or removing some pavement or adding some additional trees or a rain garden would be best for your property. And relatedly, the Drainage Assistance Program pays for issues by implementing projects that would be caused by runoff from public streets onto private property. Next one, and then this is the last category, I think, of programs that can help businesses be recognized and celebrated for the sustainability work they're doing, as well as engage in the community around them. First, the NCDEQ offers the Green Travel Program, which is a collection of programs or collection of businesses within the state of North Carolina that are engaging with sustainability initiatives that are in the hospitality industry. So places like hotels or restaurants or events like festivals and fairs can be put on this map that has like a visitor-facing webpage that as you're traveling around Raleigh, you can find some businesses that you want to hit that are really working on their sustainability efforts. Next one is the Raleigh Environmental Awards, a little plug for our office. We host these every year. Tomorrow's actually our jury night. And so this is a way for Raleigh residents, businesses, organizations to be celebrated for all the great work that they're doing in Raleigh. We're going to announce the winners at our Earth Day event on Dix Park on April 19th. We'd love to have you there, but that's the Environmental Awards. And second to last, we have tons of opportunities to get people engaged in their community and volunteering, whether it's through city programs like volunteering in departments like parks and police or volunteering through community organizations. We recognize that sustainability is a really holistic picture, and so we want people to be engaged in their communities. Lastly is a way for nonprofits to get extra funding to bolster up their volunteer programs. It's called the Volunteer Raleigh Enrichment Fund. It just encourages volunteerism in general across Raleigh. That's the last one. The next slide has a quick overview of all of the partners that we partner with to make our toolkit. We just want to take a second to recognize all the great work that they do and the programs that they host. Our toolkit literally wouldn't exist without them. We're hosting so few of these programs, but we want to uplift them, make sure that businesses have a one-stop shop that they can rummage through and figure out what's applicable to me and what should I send to my friend. So this is, all of them. And I will definitely send this presentation to you guys after this, so you'll have access to all of this. The next slide, I think, has a really quick plug for our Sustainable Neighborhood Toolkit, which just launched this week. We're super excited about it. Similar idea of it's just a bunch of programs that we want people to have access to. But this one's targeted towards you and me and our families and our neighborhoods. So some more programs that are a little bit more targeted towards the individual. The last one is just, you can use this QR code. It's pretty easy to view on your phone if you want, but I'll make sure that I send the link to you afterwards as well. Yeah. I would love to answer any questions that you have. I know some about all these programs, but I don't know everything about any of them. So ask away. I'll see what I can answer. Or if you have questions about Megan's original presentation, we're happy to take a stab at whatever you want to know.
Most of the talk has been about the commercial side of it. And I was gonna ask the question about what about homeowners, and the next to the last slide, you did mention it. So.
Perfect. Yes, great. And lots of these programs can be used by businesses, but also homeowners.
So I know a couple of years ago, my organization Activate Good had a chance to work with you all to engage everyday people in the city and citizen science to collect data on urban heat mapping and all that. So I see, you know, the homeowners, the businesses, but what about just your everyday person from Raleigh? Like, is there something they can do, and is that incorporated in here too?
Yeah, so not as much in our neighborhood or in our business toolkit, but the neighborhood toolkit has resources about how do you find a green way to commute to work on? How do I reduce my food waste? How do I do all of these like simple everyday actions that when we all do them together makes a big impact? So is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. So feel free to elaborate if that's helpful.
Well, my realm's like the nonprofit realm, so that's where my head always
Okay,
goes, right?
yeah.
So are there more ways that, you know, people volunteering with the nonprofit, like Activate Good and others, can further the goals of the overarching plan? You know?
Yeah, Megan, do you want to speak to that?
Sure, yeah, and I will say Activate Good is amazing, and we were able to be the largest program in the country because of the partnership with Activate Good. We had the most people ever sign up to help map our urban heat data around the whole country, and this program is going on for years, so they really helped us mobilize. I send people to Activate Good all the time. We have 1 million volunteer programs, like I said, but we also send them to a bunch of partners that we know do a lot of sustainability related volunteerism as well. And we are looking, there's actually a newer program in Raleigh, based in Raleigh, but working globally, called Citizen Scientists that we're partnering with on a few things. And they're new, and I just was sending them to you as well to say you guys need a partner. But that group will, and we're piloting some programs with them around things like a stream team. So that idea is there's a lot, I don't know if it's thousands, there's a lot of streams all the way through Raleigh. You know, there's issues with all of them. They can only go to so many and see what's happening, but people are walking streams all the time, right? So how do we figure out ways to mobilize people at the right place at the right time to help the city monitor how those streams are doing for several reasons, and then they can able to address them. And from an equity perspective, we're always looking for ways to do that. Besides when people are turning in a complaint or something that they're seeing, that's not a very equitable process for us addressing it. We really want to know equitably where the worst issues are and address those first, right? Instead of going to whoever happened to come to us first. And so I think a lot of those opportunities could be helped with that, but there's a lot of things that we're thinking about piloting around data, even with our urban heat data. So we did this massive effort to drive, walk, ride a bike around Raleigh. And for several days, it was a huge undertaking. You have to measure the change in heat over the course of a day. We can't do that every year, right? So we're thinking about what that looks like over time to continue to map that heat and say, we have all these great mitigation strategies. How are they working? Are they working? What does it look like now? Where is the new urban heat area? So we're looking at ways to do that. And I think some of it will have to do with citizen science and engagement too.
One of the tabs like I see change, but what if you and Karen we get together and the same software that she's developed, like people can submit complaints about things in their own lives, but what if you can submit problems to help your neighbor too? You know what I mean? So is there something there?
I think so. I have so many ideas. I'm so excited Karen's in this role now. I have a lot of ideas about like where, once you have the data, you know where things are coming from, you can really kind of think about how to have an impact. And from an equity perspective, we are trying to look holistically always, because we only have finite time, resources, money, right? And so how do we make the biggest impact on the people that need it the most first? So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, it's a lot of material. Very good.
Absolutely.
What I can get concerned with is the growth and development that's going on, and you alluded to it a little bit. But I deal a lot with rezoning and building like that. So at these neighborhood meetings, what I find is that the residents, they don't know what they're doing. So when the developer, there's some stuff that the city has put in dealing with environmental impact, for example. So there's some things in there that the city is taking care of, but there's some that may not be in there. So is there like a checklist that we could help educate residents on things that they need to be aware of when they go to the neighborhood meeting? Because I try to get them to ask several questions about rezoning and development, is traffic and impact, crime, health and safety, and a lot of things. So this fits. I have some people coming, but at my meeting tomorrow, that's going to deal with environmental impact stuff and a program for some youth. I think from which I don't know what.
Was it our climate action intern program?
It has to be neighborhood ecology lab.
Yeah, okay. We have a bunch of, we didn't even talk about, we have a bunch of engagement programs with youth that we do.
That's in our neighborhood toolkit.
Yeah, I was looking for it on there. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, to help the residents, because there's so much they need to be aware of,
Mhm.
and with conditions that they have power to work with the developments on. And is there a checklist for some of the things of concern that you mentioned quite a bit? So, and that would really help us to help residents. So as new developments occur, and if it's not already in there by the city, at least they can bring it up.
I like that idea, and I think working maybe with Nadia's team, we can kind of think about we always look to them to kind of help us create a process so it can be rolled out with everybody. We can kind of think about that because we know what the best practices are. I think the part that we have to be really careful about is like, there's so many nuances to say what strategy works where, why. And so like, how do we have that conversation and try to educate people? So I'll give you a really good example. There's a lot of conversations going on right now. We're excited about BRT. There's a lot of things about it that maybe aren't perfect, but at the same time, so for example, we know this is a hard one because I love every tree, but like, sometimes if we don't want to grow out and cut down a bunch of trees because everybody moves out of town, we might have to cut down a few trees here so we can grow up and we're more dense, because that's a lot. If you look at a lot of pictures around the world, there's a lot of cities that are like tons of people and they live this close together and they have smaller greenhouse gases. And then you look at America and a lot of our cities are this big and we have just as many people or less people and our greenhouse gases are huge. And so that density is so important. And so there's this push-pull about what works and when, and sometimes you have to lose a couple trees here so you don't lose a whole swath of trees right here. Like for BRT, I'm getting off my soapbox, I'll stop in a second. We're trying to put in solar on top of all the new bus stops, which is great.
Right.
People are interested in green roofs. Now, I love a green roof, but also they're very expensive and they don't do very much when they're on a tiny little bus stop. But if we could put a tree there or we could put a different thing there. So it's kind of like, that's a great strategy, but it's also really expensive. There's nowhere to put irrigation in or water hookups. And I'd like to say, I think it's an awesome idea. And then also maybe it needs to go with some like descriptions about how there's these strategies and there's a lot of considerations about what strategy works when, on what site, in what situation, and what neighborhood even too.
And that's the point. I think there are different approaches for every neighborhood.
Yeah.
In Raleigh, they're all not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So a roof, the solar lighting for transportation, lighting in one neighborhood may be more important than a roof garden.
Yes. Exactly.
And so to have the right tool to help people with. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
I love that.
That would really help us with our CACs as we work with our people that are involved with these things.
We'll go one more. Yeah.
One population that might be really interested in holding this in their hands are program directors that exist in, say, like United Arts Council of Wake, Emily Tremaine Foundation. Like those program directors are often looking for these kinds of opportunities to partner their funds with to then catapult that development. This feels like a really great toolkit to provide for those folks because they're in communications with people that are seeking funding and all of that kind of stuff. And it could really make some inroads into a small business, well, certainly nonprofit and other types of social enterprise industry awareness.
Thank you. When we send this to you, if you wouldn't mind giving us any contacts,
Okay.
we're happy to then share it
I
out.
think that my email's on the next slide maybe, but yeah, that'd be great if you could share contacts.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's me.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thanks so much for letting us spend the time.
Yeah. You should have thorough overview.
Yeah, we threw a lot of information at you this couple days, so absorb it and ask us any questions
We need
later.
it all. We need it all.
I feel like we did some good. Okay, we've got just a couple of other things to cover really quickly. Old business, just, I think I have three updates. One, I feel like I'll have to double check, maybe Dale, you know, that everyone has done their board training. Thank you to Ellen, for leading 3 of those sessions and for answering questions, and Dale helping to coordinate that and present as well. If you did not do that training, please let me know so we can get you a time to go through it, at least virtually. Second thing, I think this was a committee meeting that someone asked about, having our board meetings where they're recorded or where the recordings are held. So the OWL records all of our meetings. Dale has access to those, but they're also on YouTube. I think that was a specific ask. So I know you can also go to the Community Engagement Board page on the City of Raleigh website, and they started to post them directly on that page. So if you search for Community Engagement Board, City of Raleigh, you can go to that page for all the way down. And I think December is the first meeting that we have the OWL, so you can see those there, but it also goes to the city YouTube, so you can see them there to live forever. So don't make any funny faces. Third thing was about email. So it was also asked, there's a question about whether or not we could change on the Community Engagement Board site on the city's page on the city site, if we could update personal email addresses with the general Community Engagement Board email, so that if someone does want to contact someone for the board, they don't have your personal email address. That's what we use. And I can't remember, Jill, if you said that there's an option for that for IT, or if it's by preference.
I
But
think it's by preference.
okay,
You can keep your personal email, because if someone from the community wanted to contact you directly, also our city clerk uses those emails to contact you all directly. So, but if you wanted to use the general email, you could.
keeping in mind that that's not a, yeah, go ahead.
Wasn't there, I think, as a matter of fact, our city council liaison mentioned that they want to eliminate personal email addresses because they should go to a more generalized access, because apparently there were some complaints, like some people receiving information from their own personal account. So I don't know whether that's a viable thing to do.
I'll get more,
Personal accounts.
that you are correct, and I'll get more information, more details on that if it was referencing this board in particular, along with other boards as well.
So that was in her motion, for CAC. So I don't know if it was meant to be a universal thing. Or
Right.
it was-
I know it's, I think it's more so for CAs.
But I will say, if that is something you're interested in, not having your personal email address listed, always just email and say, hey, I'm one of these people who would like to have the general email as my listing on the community engagement page for the city of Raleigh. But do keep in mind that that is monitored internally, so you would just be able to go in and look at the city email. I always go through it. We don't get a lot of emails or any, but we have it and it's available. But it would be up to whoever has access to that account to regularly look at and respond to those. And then if it is something that's directed, say someone says something directly to Jeff because they heard that he's on the equity committee, well, it will be my responsibility or whoever's responsibility to make sure that Jeff gets that information and can address that directly. So it is an option. It's something that you do want to change, let me know, and then we can kind of tag team on how to get IT to help us update that. Those are all of my updates, which I'm so glad they're so short, because there isn't any new business that I wanted to discuss specifically, but the important part, last few minutes will be for staff updates. And Nadia has, I think, on the academy.
A brief one, I'll say our outreach events for the alternative response model have ended. So our staff is working on the report out Right now, we'll take it to council on April 12th, 16th. We'll take it to council on April 16th, present it to council, and hopefully they'll say, here's money, go forth.
Yeah, my update, so, we're working behind the scenes with IT on, the political conversation. But we actually had a meeting with them and just kind of got into the nitty gritty of like data and privacy. Talked about the contract, tried to talk a little bit about the scope of work, but we obviously don't know how many events and, whether, like, they have the option of doing some, professional development, capacity building, through like, teaching you all how to boost your skills and like facilitating community conversations, you're running meetings, different things, like that, using the platform, uploading conversations. Stacy did mention that's gonna be like a full board conversation. So I think the next step would be for you all to have that conversation maybe in April and kind of decide what that scope of work is gonna look like so that we can get a more narrow estimate on like what this will actually cost. IT right now, after that conversation, they did give us their privacy policy and some other documents. So they're reviewing that right now, just to make sure that we're good to go on that end. And so I should have an update soon from them on like whether we have the green light to move forward with this platform. So pretty much, I know last time in February, I wasn't here and there was some conversation about how this is gonna get funded. So it will be funded through our office budget. We didn't have to submit what we call a supplemental because we have a recurring line item that won't be needed next year. So we didn't have to submit that. So there will be money in the budget for it starting July 1st to cover the cost up to $10,000. We have that in the budget, so we can definitely get this. We just have to figure out, you know, how many meetings and different things like that, like trainings and stuff we need from them, because there's obviously a cost associated to it. So as we figure that privacy policy thing out, I will keep outreach committee in the loop and then give updates to you guys as well. But so far, everything seems really good in regards to that. So we're making progress.
So I do think, like Maddie said, moving forward, not to give outreach all of the work, but a lot of that work will be, you know, us being able to discuss how many of these meetings we want to do, what the scope or conversations or topics are going to be, who is going to assist with those, or whatever those kind of bigger picture motivations for what we want to find out, what we want to be able to help with are going to be. That's the full board, because I don't think it sits with just one, and it's less work for us to do it together than to say one committee take it on and the other committee in your next meeting, then the other committee in the next meeting. I think it's better for us to have that kind of open forum together. And then when we get down to kind of those planning details, how we are letting people know about what we're doing, about each meeting, about how to respond, that's where outreach kind of takes a heavier lift once we've gotten all of kind of the feedback on that. Yeah.
I just want to throw out a work plan since we're now in the latter part of the fiscal year. I mean, it feels like it's a natural dovetail and just an expansion and a more specific effort, but just want to put that piece, like maybe that's the auspices under which we are working, is to develop next year's work plan, since we know that we're not clear until July 1 with the new fiscal year on getting the equipment and starting the training, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that might be a way to sort of situate it within the work of the full board.
Yeah. We don't have any steps forward besides waiting for IT, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Any other, yeah?
Me again. During the training was one question, and I think it's excellent. We were talking about how often that was going to be given when you gave the training. But one thing that when we have new members coming and going, and the thought about having a module So if somebody comes on, they can take that module while they're waiting for the in-person part to come. So that was one thought. And I don't know.
Is this the board training? or
Yeah,
board-
the board training, yeah. And a module, because I don't know, one of the people come and go and you wait, the live meeting though is important because you can ask questions and whatnot. So that was good, but I did want to bring that up from that training. The other thing was, about this, when we announced where the meetings are going to be and the website and everything. And I think about where they can get the recording.
Mhm.
So maybe we could add that so that individuals that missed the meeting know where they could go. And unless you're going to announce it at every meeting, but at least when we publicize something, that'll be on the list with the website. So I think that would help us a little bit too. That's the only two things I had.
As far as the training module, that is something that Ellen and I are looking at. There's another piece of software that is needed in order to get that. And then we have it's called Success Factors that we use within the city, but we don't have a way for people externally to use that. So it could be another cost. We're looking into that just to let you know. Because it would be easier if someone joins the board, here's a training module that you can take, but a lot of moving parts on that, but we'll keep you updated on that.
We are in uncharted territory with time to spare. Not to ruin it, but we haven't been able to do roundtable announcements, updates in a long time. So if anybody, I'll kind of start with Sarah, but if you do have something that you want to share with the group, and then I will email it out as we speak so that everybody has it. We can do that before we adjourn at about 10.
Y'all, I'm giving my first TEDx talk.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. And it's at Shaw University and it's celebrating Women's History Month. It's called Herstory. And it's at SD Hall, which is the first building in the United States built for African American women education. And you can try thinking about it. There are a number of amazing speakers. 2 current Shaw University students are speaking. Cynthia Barnes, who is the first African American woman to lead a major sales conference. I wrote about her Tech Bar, she's local. And Dr. E, who is the first gen podcast talking about first generation college students. If you want to see those speakers and you don't want to pay $55 to go to the event, please email me and I will give you a promo code where it's just $35. And you can share it with as many people as you want until tickets run out. There's only 100. So I know there's only a few left. So if you're interested, please let me know. It's Sunday, March 24th at 2:30. So not this Sunday, but next Sunday, 2:30. I would love to see all there. So shoot me a note. You can share that promo code with as many people as you want. I just want to see some back and face. Thanks. That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't have anything to say. Okay.
Nothing from me.
I think I have anything there.
Join the equity.
Yes.
So maybe.
I think the committee. She picked the committee, yes.
Oh, yeah, I had my grand opening for my business, this past Saturday. That's why I was running from, and I still work my full-time job, so I'm doing all the things right now. But it's off of Wake Forest Road, near Panda Express or Hooters, like across the street, from that. So it's Clarity Essentials. So if you want to stop by and visit, please do. Thank you. Hair care, skin care, wellness products, the beard products. Yeah, so jewelry, so yeah. Thank you.
What are the hours?
Right now, 1 to 6:30, Tuesday through Friday, and then on Saturday, 12 to 6. Thank you. Thank you.
I have another announcement I forgot to make. We actually have our new community engagement strategist here. Named Shakira. I'm gonna introduce her, sorry.
Can you share a little bit about what you will do or are doing or will do?
Yeah, sure. You guys want me to stay downstairs? Yeah, so I will be, of course, working with the community engagement team. I will focus a lot on external community partners, external projects, things that really, of course, help out with community like all of our office does. And still getting the hang of things. So, I'm still figuring out a lot of things, but Hope to attend more of these meetings. Can't promise all of them, but hope to attend some of these meetings in the future. Anything else I'm missing, Nadia, that you can clarify?
Where are you from?
I'm from Richmond, Virginia. It's a great city, but you know, the city of Raleigh is a great place as well too. Because I've been in North Carolina for about 5-ish years, and initially planned on always going back to Richmond, Virginia, but North Carolina is welcoming me. So, but
Welcome.
thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Trey, and update. Dr. Lane?
Two things. One, at Barwell Road, Park. I know in April, they're gonna have a community day. And so, CAC will be a part of that, and then hopefully the, Office of Community Engagement will be a part of that. At several of those we've had before, we partnered with them for, give outreach material and things like that to the board. You might want to be aware of that and how you want to interact. Well, I can do that for the board. The second thing is that I had an action team developed for the Barwell Park community garden. So the garden has been developed now. We had a build out day for boxes, and then we're going to probably start growing, and combine it with this August 13th community day, so that we'll have kind of a rollout where community can get involved with the planning and things like that, and trying to get the school and students involved with that. So that's just some of the stuff that is coming up that I'm involved with, but that's all I'm going to talk about.
You said April 13th?
April 13th, yeah. Dale may have something at the next meeting. I think we'll meet right before that.
I think so, yeah.
So we might have more information. We'll have some flyers or something, but it's good.
Leon?
Yes.
Carmen?
I'll have to get dates to you, but the Walnut Creek Stakeholders Group is hosting a series of community workshops to find out what the people in the Walnut Creek watershed want to have occur in their community. The stakeholders group was set up during the downtown south rezoning. Kane Realty has to put a certain amount of funds into a fund that will be used for matching grants to, for people who live in the watershed to help alleviate not just flooding, mitigation, that kind of thing, but other things that the community would like to see. So we hosted our first workshop this past Sunday. We have 2 coming in April, and the dates are not in front of me. And then we'll have one in June. And so we have one coming up at the Walnut Creek Wetlands Center in April. One should be at Crowder Center in April, and then one June 6th, I believe, will be at Barwell Road. So I'll send something out, the dates, once we've got all the spots finished.
Okay. Answer. Nadia again? Thank y'all for sharing all of that, and I will, you have those before you leave, or if you can find them, then I'll send an email, but not, I'll just do it tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow, fine. Really quickly, if the equity committee can stick around for just a minute before, after we adjourn. It's 6:24 for the first time in history.
We have to, y'all don't get too excited. We got a motion to close.
Just saying, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Made by Leon. I'm sorry.
I second.
Historic motion made by Carmen. Seconded by Leon. All those in favor? Any opposed? Perfect. Thank you guys so much.
Hey.
Can we say that?